Hi, everybody. Welcome to a special Olympics episode of the Perform Happy podcast. My guest today, Dan Purvis, is a Scottish international elite gymnast, Olympian. He helped take the British men's team to a world championship medal for the first time in 2015. So many successes. I am so happy to be hanging out with you this Olympic week. Dan, welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you very much. First of all, very nice to meet you, Rebecca. Thank you for having me on the show. Incredible to be here. What an exciting time with the Olympics coming up so soon. And yeah, it's my honor and pleasure to come and talk about my experiences.
Yeah. So, okay, I'd love when you think Olympics, what is the strongest memory? What kind of hits you in the face first when you think back to your Olympic experience?
I think for me, just realizing how big it was, like the scope of being an Olympian through my sport of gymnastics. I went to the London 2012 Olympics, as you mentioned, which was incredible. Before then, my first World Championships taste of a really high level competition was 2009. And it's the same gymnast, but on a totally different level, because when I went into the Olympic Games, I could see how big it was. So many different sports, so many different athletes, and it was just a massive experience. So I remember being in the training gym thinking, I've competed against some of the world's best gymnasts the last 2009, 2010, 2011, but this is on another level, because as soon as we leave the arena, we're seeing all these other athletes, celebrities, and it was just a huge multi-sport event. So that's the biggest takeaway for me, just the grand scale of how big the Olympic Games are.
So it's not just the best of the best in gymnastics, it's the best of the best in every sport in the entire world, all hanging out in the same village together.
Exactly. You go for breakfast and you see Usain Bolt. When you get a famous Scottish cyclist, Chris Hoy, he was in the same apartment as me and the other guys and girls gymnastic team. And we were sharing with the cyclists and Tom Daly, amazing dad, all these incredible household names. And we were just chilling with them, and supporting them, and they were supporting us. And it was just, something that I'll never forget. It was just an incredible experience.
Yeah, wow. I've not thought about it in that way, that you're there with all of these celebrity athletes. So then you're dealing with, well, fortunately, you're on your home turf in London. So you're on your time zone, which is probably quite a gift to not have to adjust. But the distraction of the thing, did it actually make you better, would you say, the kind of the pressure and the everything that was happening around you, or did it become a mental obstacle for you at that level?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a bit of both. And, again, it's just fantastic to talk about my experiences, because I've never really talked about it, and the ups and downs of the Olympics. Because going into it, I'd had 2010 was really great as an all-rounder, fifth in the world, and fourth in the world for Tokyo. And then the dream was to come, hopefully, in the top three for an all-round event in London 2012. But going into the London 2012 Games, it was all about trying to get on the podium as a team, and that was the main priority. We had our setbacks in 2011 in Japan, where we didn't qualify as a team for the Olympics. And looking back on it, it was the best thing that could have happened, even though it was quite disastrous at the time, because we got to do the test event in London in January. So it did mean, unfortunately, no Christmas, straight through the training after the World Championships 2011 October, but it was all worth it, because we got to test out the equipment, got a taste of the home crowd, how it's going to be underneath the bright lights in the O2 Arena. And yeah, we had a really great comp as a team. So, there's a lot of experiences there. And then in the actual Olympic Games competition, I remember the qualification as a team, we did fantastic. Myself, I had a couple ups and downs. I had a slip on the pommel horse, and that was our last rotation. So I was going into it, I had qualified the Christian Thomas as the two all-rounders for the team, which was great. And that was one job down, and then the main thing was the team final. But I remember I was the first man up on pommel horse. That was going to be 2 days later after having the fall. So that was my last thought going into it. Right, first man up on pommel horse, I need to stay on this, and hopefully Lewis and Max can deliver their routine after that, because they're just incredible pommel workers. So I need to try and set the tempo there. But I've never been so terrified in my life. And as soon as I landed that dismount, I thought, okay, just breathe. But yeah, there was a lot of mental fortitude had gone into that, and just thinking, come on, you can do it. You've done the numbers in the gym. But yeah, walking in that O2 Arena with the team and the whole crowd, and everyone's behind us, which is incredible, but you just want to do your best. And we sort of knew as well, if we did everything, we hit everything, we'd have a chance at an Olympic historic medal. So yeah, a lot of pressure going into it.
When you talk about the mental fortitude, I mean, you're always preparing for the next pressure situation as a gymnast, whether it's the state meet or regionals or, whatever it is, you're always sort of, coaches are like, okay, we're going to have some pressure today. But the Olympics are I would say, the ultimate in potential pressure. How did all of your preparation up to that point get you ready to handle that amount of pressure and be the consistent athlete that you are?
Mm. Yeah, really great question. I mean, we had great coaches. We had our personal coaches. I remember it was about 3 weeks before the Olympics, we went out to France. So we got away from the whole media. We were in France for 10 days. We actually trained with the Japanese team, which was amazing. It's a fantastic male gymnast, Kohei Uchimura. So just watching him train as well was incredible. But our preparation, we weren't focusing on them, we're focusing on ourselves. Who's going to be the first person up on each apparatus? Who's going to help with the chalking up the bars? Who's going to help with the pommel horse? We had Eddie Van Hoof and Andrei Popov. So they were the national coaches at the time. So they worked really closely with us. And yeah, I mean, it was a tough training camp. I know we were all ready to get to the Olympic Games, but that was what was great as well. It wasn't like, oh, we need another week out in France. We were all ready to go. And that's such a hard thing to time, as a coach and an athlete, you don't want to peak a week or two before. You want to be ready. So hopefully on that day, you can give your best performance and do the numbers, because, gymnastics is a very, very tough sport. And for me, the funnest times were probably the week before the event, because it meant I could taper off. My fitness is there. My numbers have been done. And as long as I can carry no injuries, I can go out and enjoy it. So that's what I tried to think about. Even going into Olympic Games, it was the same preparation. It's the same people I've competed against the last from 2010 World Championships up until now, 2012. Let's just go out there and give them a best shot.
Yes, that lines up with this theory that I have that every competition is practice. Mm-hmm. And every practice is practice for the next practice, that you're always just doing it the same way, that whatever works for you mentally going into practice is what you want to be doing going into competition, and what you do going into the state meet should be what you do going into the Olympics, because you don't want to add any new things in when you've already proven it to work. Do you feel like you really trusted your pre-performance routine, so to speak, going into it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the first time ever, I certainly felt outside pressure. I mean, gymnastics, especially in Great Britain, there wasn't that many eyes on it for many years. I mean, I'm from Liverpool as well, so it was always very much a football culture. My brother was a footballer. I was really the only gymnast in the family, which is a little bit different. So over the years, even though I had really good results, it wasn't, I might be in the paper, things like that. But when I was getting messages off people from Facebook, from people from school, years later, London 2012, Dan, I saw you on the news, saw you on TV. Really good luck. I thought, wow, I've been to 3 World Championships, multiple Europeans, and I've never had people outside of my bubble of gymnastics message me. And it was the first time I thought, wow, there's going to be a lot of eyes on this event. But like you say, it was that sort of, right, let's just do what I can control, stay in my own lane, which is, approach every training session like I always do. Think about putting my hand up under pressure and trying to imagine that I'm just in my own training environment. And, I've got a fantastic coach, personal coach, Jeff Brooks. We were doing a lot of control competitions as well, before going to France for the training camp. We had European, British Championships, Olympic trials before then. So it was all about imagining that, but really being on that field and realizing that, okay, this happens once every 4 years. That was something I had to really put in the back of my head. And I think we were a very young team. I was 21 at the time. I think Sam and Max Whitlock were probably 19 at the time. Lewison and Christian were 22. So I think that helped us as well. We certainly loved it, which was great. We didn't really think about the medals and the pressure, even though that was there. It was just, right, come on, let's just give it our all. And I think because we took that pressure of medals off us and tried to rely on our own training and control competitions, that's how we really managed to do something special that day.
Mhm. Now, whenever you do something groundbreaking, like getting that first world championship medal. So to now we're going to fast forward to 2015. Um, what was it about that team, maybe the team chemistry, the team culture, the coaching that set you guys up for success in breaking barriers as men's artistic gymnasts from Great Britain?
Yeah, I mean, that was amazing. That was a totally different experience because in London 2012, it was very much a shock for us to have got that team medal. We just hit our routines. We didn't really go out with the expectation even in a league. We thought, okay, we could potentially get on the podium. But going into 2015 World Championships and knowing that Rio's the year after, we wanted to make a statement there. And it was another home games in Glasgow in the Hydro Arena. So the similar pressure of the Olympics. The team was slightly different. You had Niall Wilson, fantastic gymnast, and Bryn Bevan, incredible gymnast. And then it was me, Max, and Lewis. So really strong team. James Hall as the reserve, who's been an incredible athlete this last couple of cycles. But yeah, for us, it was the pressure of trying to deliver a medal, which was a lot different than normal. We thought, okay, on paper we could be in the top three, but to do it, and we were going around with, I think, yeah, Russia. So we were around with Russia, very, very strong team. We had the Americans, always incredible. And we always take China and Japan as normally 1 and 2. But yeah, that training, I think we just had so much confidence as a team that we're really going into this as not the underdogs now, but as a nation that can, rival the best teams in the world and the teams that we've been watching as youngsters win all these incredible medals. So I think we went in there, with our heads held high. And also that home crowd experience is just phenomenal, be it in London, being in Glasgow. And that really, that buzz of the crowd and the energy, really lifts us. And I think it does give us an extra, percentage in our routines as well. So we had to stay calm, rely on each other, but we knew going into that, if we hit everything, then we should be on that podium. But I think certainly getting that silver medal was a surprise, and one up from the bronze in 2012.
Yeah. So it makes me think back to an interview with Ali Raisman right after Rio. And they asked, what were you thinking going out there? And she just said, well, we're already the world champions. There was just no question. They knew we're the world champions and we're just going to go and do the thing we do. It sounds similar in that way that you guys just sort of knew you had that confidence, but where did it come from? For the kid out there who's like, I want to be confident like that. How do you develop that?
Oh, certainly. I've never been one for confidence, if I'm honest. Always struggled with shyness and doubting myself. And it's taken a lot of strong people, mum and dad around me, the heroes really in my career, my coach, Jeff Brooks, other coaches like Andrei Popov, national coaches, worked really solid with me for many years, but they had to get the confidence out of me. But I think that's going back when I was younger, but I think towards the time after London 2012 and after Lewis Smith got a Pommel medal in Beijing in 2008, the confidence really grew from seeing British athletes achieving on the podium that we can, rival these great nations. Because before that, we were probably, I think, in maybe the late 20s, something like that, going back to Athens. And, I'm not sure that's the exact number, but certainly we're always climbing that ladder. And, we had when Lewis Smith got his bronze medal and Pommel horse, that gave us funding then for athletes like myself to train full time, to finish school in year 11 here, and pursue it and craft my skill really. So it was a whole lot of things, and there's ups and downs, there's roller coasters, but I think for the main thing, we were all pushing each other as a team. We're all really best friends on the squad, and we could all see that on any given day, one of us could be third, second, fourth, top 10 in the world. So if we're pushing each other at British Championships, national competitions, trials for World Olympics, if we can get onto that team, then going into that by after 2012, then we should be up there, similar to what Ali said as well about going into that as not the underdog, but thinking, right, well, we can visualize our confidence and visualize being on that podium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that it makes you think about like this idea of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. What comes first, believing in yourself or the success?
Mm-hmm.
So from your perspective, what do you think has to be there first?
Or I think it's very individual. Like I mentioned before, for me, I had to achieve it to believe it. I would even say to my coach when I was younger, my coach would say, Dan, you've won, say it was a Northwest competition, so a regional competition. And maybe I was there 12 at a time. And I said, yeah, but, such and such fell off pommel horse and such did this. And, he's like, well, it doesn't matter about them. You can only do your own competition and you've done it. But that took me many years to have to see the results, have to get the medal around my neck. And then slowly, if I had one bad competition, I was very much down in the dumps and it would take people to pick me up. Over the years, I learned to manage that. But, it was tough through my younger years. But then other gymnasts that I've known can believe it first and achieve it. I was always chasing Daniel Keaton's incredible gymnast, and I was always sort of chasing him, second to him in national development program, in trials for many, many years. And he seemed to just be able to, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but for me, always very positive, always said to himself, right, I'm going to be number one day. And it was very different to me. And he made it happen in his own way. So I just think everyone's individual, but certainly I think if you can talk about that around your close coaches, your parents, whoever supports you, your friends, I think that's really important, trying to get to the bottom of that quickly. And that's why I think personal coaches are so important, because my coach knew how to get the best out of me. And he could tell by my body language, Dan's not believing in himself this day in competition. So I need to have a word with him. And normally you would just say, listen, take the pressure off, enjoy it. This is the way you do gymnastics. And medals or no medals, you can go out with your head held high if you give it your best. And I've always tried to remind myself that, and it's always helped me take the pressure off, even at the highest level.
Now, okay, for the confident teammate who just has that, do they have that pep talk naturally that it doesn't matter, it's fine, I'm just going to go out and do my best? And is that what you had to get from the coach? Was that, do you think, that positivity and that just sort of shake it off, have fun, and let it happen? Or is that another kind of individual thing that's just what worked for you?
Yeah, I think that's what worked for me. Trying to think of an example, right? I remember, Niall Wilson, competing with him for many years, his family were very much like, you could hear them in the crowd, and it really gave Niall a big boost. You could see that there was pumping the chest and, be waving or that. And Niall obviously very much thrived in that. Now, I was very much the other way. I might see a mum down the crowd and give them a quick thumbs up, but I wanted to stay, in my bubble. But for him, like, that's what made Niall tick. I think the more pressure some athletes get, the better they can respond. And, I certainly feel that in gymnastic circumstances. If I've got nothing else to lose and it's all on the line, that's probably when I get the best out of myself. It's probably the first apparatus I have to really stay calm, because it's a marathon, not a sprint, a gymnastic competition, especially if you're doing 4 apparatus for the women's and 6 for the men. So you have it is very much a mental game by that point. But going back to, do you have to be confident? I think certainly you do have to believe in yourself, and that is an absolute massive one. And the more competition I got, the more results I got, I did start to believe in myself, and I did start to see myself as number 3 in the world, 4th in the world, 5th in the world in my own head. And then going into the competition, I had a bit more pride and ego about me to put my hand up and think, no, you need to deliver, because you've already proven it. So it took me longer than maybe other athletes to get there, and I had to see those results, like coming 5th in the world in Rotterdam 2010, 4th in Tokyo as an all-rounder. And then I could think, right, well, I've earned my place now with some of the legends in the sport, and I need to go out there and do myself proud.
It's great. It's great to see how different everybody is, because I think a lot of athletes will go, well, I'm not a confident person, or I'm not the chest pounding, energy loving, I'm the little shy one, and I'm a little nervous, and I don't really want everyone looking at me. And that same kid can grow into their own version of confidence. And what I hear you saying is, with the right coaching, and when you're surrounded by people who believe in you, it's a lot easier to finally start to discover that. And then, of course, enough experience is going to give somebody confidence, period. I mean, just experience over time is going to build confidence. But when you're lacking it, you're physically capable, but you can't see it in your mind. It's all about who's supporting you. I mean, from my perspective. So what did your parents do right for you during that, when you were younger and kind of coming into your own?
I'm just so fortunate with my parents. They're they're just incredible people themselves. And they always gave me and my brother the best opportunities they could. You know, like I mentioned before, my brother was a footballer, so he was. I was 7 years old when I got into gymnastics, and he was 10 years old as a footballer. But I think early on, they used to bring me to my brother's football games, and this before I was even gymnast. I was climbing up trees. I was going onto the football field when I shouldn't have been doing cartwheels, all that sort of thing. So they knew, okay, well, Dan, we just want him to do exercise, want him to be able to express herself through physical activity. And that's when someone suggested going to a gymnastic club, which is about half an hour from my house in Liverpool, and it's called Southport Gymnastic Club. And, you know, they just, when Jeff saw me, he said, well, this boy's got a lot of natural ability. So I wanted to get into the competition squad. And then from there, we'll try and get into competitions. And, you know, they were all for it. You know, very supportive. They had no idea. There was no pressure of, especially back then, going to Olympic Games or European Championships, nothing like that. It's just, okay, Dan's going to go once a week, enjoy himself, and we're going to concentrate on his education. And it was only the more competition I started to do and the more serious the training got. And then I got into the Great Britain squad when I was 11 years old. And it was sort of an eye-opener for mum and dad, like, okay. But they would always say to me, Dan, listen, at any time, you can walk away from this. You know, don't do, you know, especially if I'm having a bad day. Like, you know, maybe gymnastics just hasn't gone well. The session's not gone well. I used to certainly go on training camps and think, well, I'm not as good as these other boys from around the country. Again, I was very shy, so it's hard for me to make friends. And we used to go to, well, it still is there now, the Lilleshall National Centre. So that's where I did a lot of our training. But the day before thinking, I don't want to go. Really don't want to go, be 11 years old. And then, you know, they always said, well, you don't have to go, but, you know, just never give up and give it a go. And I think that's what I took away from it. I was like, okay. And as soon as I was there, I was fine. It was just the anxiety of thinking about, you know, being away from my parents for a week or being in a totally different dynamic than we used to. And what was great as well, it was difficult for my coach, Jeff Brooks, to go away because he was running the squad in Southport, but he would try and get away as much as he could with me and, you know, coach me and make it seem as similar, because I very much someone who didn't like being out of the comfort zone when I was younger. So for me, I think the key takeaways from mum and dad, they just gave me the time. You know, they didn't put the unnecessary pressure on me. And also, you know, they always said to me, you can walk away at any time. And I think that was really good. So it was on me. And he realised that I loved the sport of gymnastics. So ultimately, I was pushing myself, you know, to do it. And I think that's really important.
And that's so important to avoid burnout too, to always know that you are choosing to walk into the gym, that when you hurt or you're tired, nobody's making you do it. And I think a lot of young, especially, you know, very capable athletes, they get so much praise and so much feedback that they start to be like, well, I have to do this. I'm made for this, or I'm meant to do this, but for them to constantly be reminding you, we love you no matter what. You don't have to do this. There's no pressure coming from us. That's so important. And I have a little girl, she's 9, who's anxious and shy and doesn't want to do new things. And the best thing I've been able to say for her is, you don't have to. You don't have to. And then she is then given that opportunity to choose out of her comfort zone, which then gives her so much confidence because she's like, okay, I did a hard thing. I didn't have to do it, but I did it. And I'm so glad I tried. I mean, I've seen her do that repeatedly. And I imagine that your parents have sort of given you that agency too. You could do hard things, but you don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. And you know, it almost, you know, at times, probably from, you know, maybe when I was 13, I was making friends then on the national squad, and mum and dad would be like, so Dan, are you sure you want to go? And I'm like, yeah, I've got, you know, it'd be the other way. I'll be like, Mom, of course, of course I want to go. I'm going to go see my friends. I can't wait. And, you know, I think because they give me that freedom. And like you mentioned then, you know, if you can discover that yourself, that I can do hard things and I can, you know, change my own mindset without the pressure of someone else, and really you can find out what you want to do. You know, it was a little bit easier, I think, for me than maybe some other gymnasts, because I think of most gymnasts, they're very good at other sports that I've noticed. Certainly we'll be playing football, you know, we'll be doing like tennis, all sorts of other activities as well in between sessions. Now, I don't want to be too down on myself, but I very much wasn't a great footballer. I never felt I was very good at many other sports. I'm getting a little bit better now in my older years. But for me, the pressure I put on myself was, I am going to be a gymnast. And that is the path that I'm going to go down. And, everyone's very individual, and I would encourage everyone to do loads of different sports and activities and try the best to see which one fits. But for me, from a young age, I always thought, okay, it's gymnastics or nothing. And that's very individual as well. But I think that just come from understanding myself at an early age.
Well, same for me. And I wasn't even that good. People say you're too tall, you're too old, but I'd be like, but I love it. This is all I want to do. I don't want to do ballet. I don't want to do volleyball like that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So now you're a coach. And I'm curious, you talk so fondly about your coaches throughout your gymnastics career. What are the most important things that you carry on from them, or important lessons or strategies or techniques that you make sure that you carry on as a legacy to your coaches?
Yeah, really, really interesting question there. I think coaching is all sorts of different levels, but I think the main thing is you have to have fun. I was lucky enough after 2018, the last competition at the Commonwealth Games for Scotland. Actually, no, even sorry about that. It was 2016 as well. I actually opened my own Dan Purvis gymnastic business. I've actually just finished. I got my little club T-shirt on here. So that was going for 2 years, and then when I retired in 2018, that's when I really took it on and really discovered how much I loved coaching. Mine's very recreational gymnastics. And then I keep my hand in at Southport as well. We're in the boys competitive squad. So I love the mix. I love that gymnasts come into my classes and they come and learn something they never thought they could do. They get that sense of belief that, wow, I've just done a forward roll, or I've just been so shy for weeks on end that I've been holding my dad's hand to come into a session. And now you see them in my classes running around, having fun. They've gained that experience, so they can take that onto, other walks of life. And then for me, the more competitive side is learning, the more supporting skills, the hands-on skills. How do you get through to a gymnast that's really scared of maybe, let's just make an example, a back somersault on bar. How do you break the skill down? How do you do the preparation, put the pads in? It's a challenge, it's a thinking challenge, and that's really good fun as well. So I think for me, like I mentioned, my coaches, they look like they're having fun. And that was great. I've wanted to keep that. Well, I've always enjoyed gymnastics. And I want to enjoy coaching just like that. And also as well, time, my coach Jeff, he always gave me time. Andre always gave me his time. And that's what I try and do. When I'm in the gym, it's on them. There's no looking at my phone or anything like that. It's that focus, and it's listening as well. I think it's a massive one. How's your day? Everything okay in school? Anything going on? You can tell by body language. Jeff always said to me, I can tell if you're going to have a good or bad session. If you come in with your head down and shoulders slumped, or if you come in, happy as days, maybe doing a cartwheel when you shouldn't be coming through the door, whatever it is, you could tell, right, he's on it, he's going to have a good day. So I think just knowing your athlete as well is really important.
I think you may be the only coach I've ever talked to who gets excited by helping kids through fear. I think it can be so frustrating sometimes when you can see what kids are capable of, but then they just are freezing or it's not working. So everybody be like Dan Purvis and be excited about the opportunity to break down a skill and get creative with drills. I mean, that's it. It's a matter of perspective. I love when there's a setback in a kid because I'm like, ooh, we're going to learn so much from this. This is going to give us so much great, important wisdom about what makes you tick. Let's go. This is helpful. This is great. So, okay, can you give us some tips for the coach out there that is exasperated with their scared kid? And let's say they're learning that flyaway on bars, or how can that coach shift their mindset to finding this as an opportunity? And what would you do with a kid who's all of a sudden can't do their dismount anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand, because the athlete's going to be certainly frustrated if they've been able to do the skill and then they've lost it, and for whatever reason they've had a mental block, maybe a lot of nerves around that skill. I just think the most important thing is breaking it all down and going right back to basics. I mean, if I'd try to think of an example for me, because I think for me, I think about my own self and how scared I was as a gymnast in certain skills. And, I always overcame those skills. I might have not put them in my routine, but I gave it a go. And I think that is so important as well, because in gymnastics, you have to call the points. There's so many different skills and avenues you can go down. So again, if you know your athlete, If you know they're a little bit stiff at bridges, then okay, well maybe a walkover, for instance, isn't the best skill. Maybe we switch that up with a back somersault. There's hundreds of different variations there. Don't coach each gymnast the same. I think that's important as well. Everyone's different personalities, different abilities, and don't write anyone off either. I was, over the years, I imagine I was written off. When I went to national squads and places like that, because I was shy, I wouldn't speak. I probably wasn't getting the best out of my own gymnastics, and my coach Jeff always supported me and always said never give up, and would say to other coaches, look, keep an eye on Dan Purvis because he is going to go somewhere. So you never give up because you never know. But I think in terms of if you've lost the skill and you're scared about it, just go right down to basics. Go on that trampoline. If it's a back somersault on bar, do back somersaults, go on a shiny bar, make the shapes, take the fear away, put a pad in there, encourage that it's fun to hit the bar with the pad in. Look, nothing can happen. Look, woo, jump into a pit. Just make it as safe as you can. And I think once you take that fear away and watch the gymnasts, it's gone wrong a couple of times, but they haven't hurt themselves, and that's so important. And then slowly you can build that skill back up again. But it's just being patient with it. Gymnastics, I think, is the toughest sport in the world because it's not just one piece of apparatus. It's 4 or 6 very, very different apparatus. So it takes a lot of time, and you just got to be patient with it. And it's a challenge as you as a coach as well. How can I get this gymnast to tick and break down the skill and get them to do it again? And when they do, it's the best feeling in the world for the athlete and for the coach. So it's yeah. So that's the advice I'd give. Break it all down.
Yeah. And it's that you come back to this a couple of times, that everyone is so different. Every single person is different. You can't have the same mental strategy as the guy next to you on the team. It's not going to work the same. So if a coach says, here's the assignment, everyone do this, 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 and this, you're going to be leaving kids out who don't learn that way or need to explain in a different way, which that takes a higher level of sophistication as a coach, and also a higher level of effort. I mean, you just got to work harder if you're going to try to meet every kid where they are. And it sounds to me like that's something that you are 100% willing to do as a coach.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had great examples that, the Great Britain coaches now are just phenomenal, and they're so good with the junior program. There's so much expertise there. And as well as that, there's so much information on your phone to have a look on YouTube and break down certain skills. A lot of Instagram podcasts, similar to this one, where you can talk about gymnastics, psychology, everything like that. So there's so much information. But back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't really any of this. So, I think my coach realized with me that Dan's very much a visual learner. I couldn't take too much information. If he was talking to me, you need to open your hips, squeeze your bum, really go for the bail, put your toes. It was just too much. So he used to draw on the floor, like in a chalk stick, man, and then just, use arrows and then arch, kick, dish, push away. And I was like, okay, awesome. It would have been a lot easier for me to learn through looking at a phone, but that wasn't there back then. So he was very creative, which was great. And he wasn't Coach Jeff. He wasn't from a gymnastic background. He was actually an ex-athlete, a javelin thrower. Then as a youngster, and then he went into the army to play football through sport, and then he was a policeman, and then through his own children wanted to do gymnastics. That's how he started to be a gymnastic coach. So it's not like he had the most technical knowledge. He was just driven to find what's going to get through to every individual athlete, not just me. I've got another incredible gymnast and friend, Frank Baines, is a great friend of mine. He was 5 years younger than me, and we trained really well together, but he was a totally different kettle of fish than I was. He could pick things up really quick. He really understood gymnastics, where for me, I was pretty much chucking myself, and then through chucking myself, I'd eventually get the skill. So, he was I think Jeff got a lot more frustrated than me than he did with Frank. But either way, he never gave up on either of us, and he understood that, they're both two different gymnastic characters here. So you just got to be flexible.
Yes. Flexible, open-minded, creative, joyful. I mean, I wish that I could just give that to every coach. Every coach, just here you go. Here's your package. You just started coaching. Here are the characteristics that you now have. Okay. Now, just to wrap up, going back to our little Olympic hopefuls out there. So the 9-year-old who's like, I'm going to the Olympics. What do you say to him or her? What's maybe the best advice that you could have gotten when you were just little and in love with your sport that could have carried you through a joyful experience? Any little parting advice for that kid who's got big dreams?
I would say, remember why you're doing it. Remember every session, what you want to achieve that session. You know, it's great to dream big, and you should dream big, but be proud of, you know, the regional competitions you go to. Be proud of the recreational gymnastics you go to. Be proud of achieving a skill for the first time. All these little hurdles that you've overcame is so important. And yes, the big dream is here. Okay, but if you aim for this and you do the right things, work hard, listen to your coaches, try and believe in yourself, speak to everyone around you whenever you're upset about things, and most importantly, enjoy it. Hopefully you'll get to that level. And, you know, I hope everyone does achieve the dreams. You know, as you know, it's not always goes to plan, but as long as you can enjoy it and take away from the sport of gymnastics, well, I've learned so many lessons here. And, you know, some of my best friends in the sport, you know, they didn't quite go to the Olympic Games, but they've achieved high level gymnasts now. So they've found a passion in other ways. But I guess if a young athlete was going to ask me, how can I get there to the Olympic Games? It sounds cheesy, but just never give up. You just never know. You know, I never would have. It's been a dream, you know, dream career. And at times, you know, I've been wanting to give up. I've been scared. I've had blisters on my hands. I haven't been wanting to go maybe on a plane and go away on my own for 10 days in a training camp. Not me, also with my teammates. You know, but you just can't give up, because as long as you enjoy gymnastics, that's the main thing. So I never really put that pressure in Olympic Games on myself, I've got to be honest. I just always put the pressure on trying to do my best at every competition and every training session. And through that, you know, it's managed to have a really happy career there, with ups and downs, of course. But like I mentioned there, you know, you've got to have a great support network around you if you're lucky enough to have that. And, you know, I would watch the athletes this Olympics. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be absolutely amazing. And that's what drove me when I was younger, watching athletes on the TV at the highest sporting event in the world, and be inspired and just go for your dreams. And I'm sure you can make them happen if you do all the right things.
Amazing. Dan Purvis, thank you so much for sharing your joy, your love of the sport, all of your amazing wisdom. What a gift. Thank you so much.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. And yeah, lovely to meet you.